Hey, what is up everyone? Welcome back to another review, and today I'm going to be taking a look at the high-grade After Colony Gundam Sandrock Custom EW, and of course, this is from Gundam Wing Endless Walls. And as usual, I got this kit right here from HobbyLink Japan, link in the description. Alright, so it's time to get the Sandrock right here built. Comes in a usual size high-grade box. Absolutely awesome box art in the front. That of course is the Sandrock EW with its cloak in some ruined city streets. On the sides of the box, we've got some images of what this will look like finished with the cloak and without the cloak on. I cannot wait to see how that actually works out. We've got those absolutely massive heat shotels, and as we can see, we do have multiple colors for these as usual. That is the hot burning red color, as well as the standard silver. We have some nice looking articulation here. Will be interesting to see how based it is on the standard high-grade Sandrock, which looks like this right here, so we can compare this while we build it. And on the other side of the box, we've got all the information on the mobile suit itself, which I'll pop right there on the screen so you can pause that and read it at your own leisure. On busting open the box, we've got your plastic, so that is 1, 2, 3, and 4 bags of runners, so quite a bit for a high grade, as well as what seems to be the soft rubber that will be making up that cloak. Interesting. Lastly, as usual, we've got the manual. So usual manual right here, you've got your image of the finished and possibly painted kit on the front. Around back, we've got all the images of what we'll be seeing out of this, including the weapons, the heat shotel, the anti-beam cloak additional armor, and the Vulcans in the head, as well as information about the pilot, Quattro, right there. As for the instructions, it's pretty much your average high-grade pamphlet manual. And just taking a quick look over all the runners or the sprues that come inside of this box right here, all of which are marked denoted 2026 Gundam Sandrock EW, which means nothing, absolutely nothing, reused from the high-grade Sandrock from 2019. Impressive. When it does come to the amount of plastic inside the box, this is quite impressive for a high-grade kit. Usually when it comes to a standard high-grade kit, I would just about cover an A2 cutting mat like this right here, but this goes a little bit beyond the edges, and there's a lot of nice color separation included in here as well. That and everything being from 2026 means this is a more exciting kit than I initially thought it would be. Sticker wise, this is all we've gotten here, so that's eye stickers, a head camera sticker, and 2 color correcting stickers. For this build right here, I'm going to be using the God Hand Ultimate Nipper, and to clean up the nubs, I'm going to be using the Racer Pro by Gun Primer. Also, I will mention, I noticed this right here, we've got Runner W, which is a really weird, letter to use because these are usually in alphabetical order, starting with A, working through the kit. W is really far down the line, and it actually says XXG Frame EW. And this also is brand new for 2026, so they wouldn't make this general use runner right here unless they're going to get general use out of it, so expect to see the rest of the EW line. When it comes to the feet, they build up of about 5 parts, I think it is, and we do have a little bit of a toe bend, bent down ever so slightly, and up ever so slightly too. Actually, it's a bit strange to put a toe bend in there when you're going to kind of limit its movement. Anyway, there is the internal design of the knee, so 2-point bend, closes up like that. Interesting ankle here, so ball joint for the ankle. This pops onto a peg, and then that is what mounts down into the ankle zone, just like so. Then the knee attaches up here, and that's pretty much a cross section of your lower leg, so nice ankle joint. The build continues on and hides the front seam very nicely with this bit of armor that attaches on like so, and a knee armor up here like this, so it eliminates the front seam entirely. Nice. Pop on the foot, and this right here then is what we get in the end. So like I said, absolutely designed from scratch. So this is what the leg of the 2019 Sandrock looks like. And even though they are visually quite similar, just with some, of course, Endless Walls versus TV changes, we do have a nice little bit of color separation on this vent here. No color separation on the vent on the 2019 version. And the biggest noticeable thing I found is if you do look down here, we do have a seam line running through the front armor, hidden a little bit with the panel lining there, but there is a seam line, and that is not present here. Impressive. Next up then, we've got the waist unit. This attaches together very nicely. Lots of subtle pieces. We've got some dropping hip mechanisms inside, and when it comes to all the various little details, they layer up nicely. But I will mention there is one part that you need to put a little bit of extra push into while building, or it can be a bit of an issue. That is these bits of purple right here. I popped these on once and then they fell off, popped them on again, they fell off again. You really have to kind of put them on and then kind of tuck under and really push till they click. Then they're permanently in position forever. Anyway, we've got a premium butt flap that moves like so. Ball joints for the side skirts, which could be a little bit more secure. They're not too bad, but they're not particularly great overall. My be easy to knock them off. Anyway, we've got ball joints in the front. You can split the front armor so they can move independently. And like I mentioned, we do have an angled dropping mechanism to the hips in here, which is cool too. Overall, pretty nice. So now moving on up to the torso, and this all seems to build around this C-clip little rig section. So there is the front bit of armor. We've got a peg back here, a joint, a peg, as well as an upper C-clip. Interesting. This whole thing then mounts back into the actual joint, which will attach down into the waist unit. The neck joint now gets into the equation right here. C-clip joints on, so that is unique. This is the upper kind of neck or clavicle area. You have to throw the shoulder joints into it from above like so. So this is very fancy. The last version of Sandrock was rocking classic shoulder polycaps. Basically this style right here, so quite the advancement. Same with the neck, just the classic old polycap. This then attaches from above, then the rest of all that armor just builds on around it. Chest vents in red. Then this is where the only real color correcting sticker comes in. That's a yellow one you just attach onto these shoulder details, and then they just pop up here on the shoulders, click in just like that, and there is the torso complete. So brand new articulation apparently compared to what we would have seen. Now I'm just going to throw this onto the lower body so we can see what it can do. Overall, a very nice quality kit so far. And there we go. There is the bend to the back, to the front, and we do have a bit of side to side there too. So overall, quite impressive. Again, all plastic on plastic. And there's our little bit of a side-by-side comparison to the previous release, which is the 2019 version of Sandrock. Again, this just has regular old school kind of polycaps and whatnot, but a nice little bit of a movement down inside of the butt flap there, which gives you a little bit more articulation. So overall, better or worse? I guess the only answer is different. So next up in here is the build of the arm. We start off with the shoulder, which has some fantastic color separation and nice sliding mechanism up top as well, and a brand new design for the shoulder joints, which looks to be quite nice so far. The rest of the build of the arm is quite simple. Then we basically end up with the final assembly of the shoulder attaching on into the arm itself, and we do have a multitude of hands included in here as well. Oh, it seems like this is a left arm, so spin that around, and this right here is what we get. Again, very nice design overall. The sliding mechanism in the top of the shoulder for the hard point. For the armor, we've got a moving little section right here. The shoulder seems to be a very nice design so far. Double jointed bend at the elbow, and all in all, quite a premium kit. Once again, when it does come to a little bit of a comparison, this is a very simple kit, the standard 2019 version compared to what we're taking a look at today. Just normal non-moving shoulder which plugs into a polycap. Very basic under here, not quite as nice as what we're seeing today. And again, basic elbows, big seam line down the arm, marks up quite a bit. Just comparatively, this brand new kit is so nice. I thought it'd be in the same vein. It's not. So last up in here is the backpack. We attach in some verniers, some more verniers. Actually, the top ones seem to be hard points. These cool swinging mechanisms, more verniers, and this is actually very nice for just a 4-piece connection. We get this nice little thruster section with this little hanging part right here. Very nice. We attach these two of these because we built two on like that and like that right there. So these can rotate outwards and move up and down ever so slightly. We've got these swinging segments right here. Next up then is the head. This is a very nice assembly yet again. I will mention there are eye stickers, so no color separated eyes on this particular kit, so not fully modern. You attach on all the parts, including the front face armor, sides, rear armor. We do have another sticker for a camera on the V fin, and then you build the big old chicken comb thing for up top, and then you slap it all together. And this right here is what we get in the end. So very nicely detailed. The seam lines are nicely kind of amalgamated into the design in general. I did cut off the safety flags on the V-fin, and overall it is impressive in the end, even though it does have old school stickers for eyes, which kind of makes sense. These eyes are absolutely tiny. Also, there is a little bit of a quick comparison compared to the one we would have seen with the 2019 version. As you can see, it's quite similar even, just the detailing is definitely a lot nicer overall, which is, in general, how the kit is. Then it's just time to build up the weapons. That is the Heat Shotels, a choice of blade in silver or clear red. So getting on to probably one of the most interesting aspects about this kit, and that is the cloak. So this kind of builds up, or should I say, cuts out as a series of elements that you don't actually really combine together until you're actually throwing it onto the Gundam itself. This material is kind of interesting. It's like a rubber where I feel like they've pressed this shape into it. The reason I say that is because for the shoulder armors, there is a specific left and a right, and the L and the R is pressed into them. And speaking of the shoulders, these you actually do build up, just not on the actual robot itself. So you build up some feathered shoulder armor, mount the cloak on like so, and we've got the little pegs that lock it in like so. So you lock it in on one side, bring it round, hook it on here, 2 pegs then over on the other side, and then you attach this on a little something like so. We've got a splash of color here being the purple that attaches in under this shoulder armor like so, which then mounts onto the top of this, locking the cloak in like so. So it's pretty much rigid in shape somewhat, like it is flexible, but it's, well, you know, it's not gonna pose or anything like that. Pretty interesting to see what it's like when it's on a little later on. Also, just jumping on in here with a little bit of a what if question in case you're asking, are these compatible? And the answer is not necessarily. As you can see, it does fit in, but is quite loose. You can probably thicken up that ball and that might work, but directly out of box, the arms don't fit. And when it comes to the hips, nah, they're too tight. So yeah, they didn't really go for some compatibility when rejiggering the whole design. All right, so that right there is the Sandrock build. And it's time to check out the aesthetics. So first off, I will mention that this is what it looks like out of box, but I did do a little bit of pen lining to make the lines pop up. Besides that, this is exactly what you're going to be getting. Alright, so first off, we're jumping right on into the overview of the aesthetics, and this right here is mind-blowingly beautiful. This thing just looks absolutely stellar. The details, the proportions, the overall silhouette, everything is absolutely perfect. That based on the fact that this is a rock-solid build means that this is one of, actually probably the nicest high-grade Wing Gundam kit that exists thus far. There's so much nice aesthetic things going on here. We've got layering of yellow parts coming from underneath in the shoulders. The only stickers are the ones up in the shoulder aspects, which really aren't that critical. The overall quality of the plastic is fantastic. And what's really impressive is the subtle beveling on a lot of the leg sections, especially the upper leg. And we've got that on the forearms as well. That subtle beveling around the edges, which just gives it a more premium feel than you'd usually get from a high-grade kit. Everything about this, beautiful. This is a great-looking kit. Throwing this version of Sandrock right here down side by side with the original art, you can see it's pretty much 100% perfect. There is only one thing that does stand out as a bit odd, and that is the hands are not in white. Now, maybe this is to make sure that the rest of the line, which are all going to be using the same frame, which has the hands on that particular runner, well, to keep them the same. You just actually pop the hands off, give them a little bit of a spray, and then they would be white. But it is worth noting, pretty much 100% color accurate besides that aspect. Now there is another version of Sandrock Custom out there. That is a premium Bandai Master Grade version. Now I don't have mine handy right now. It's unsorted like most of my gunpla, which I really need to get to at some point, but I'll just throw up some older footage so you can actually see them side by side. So as you can see, this one, from what I can see, of course I can't see the footage right now of them spinning beside each other, but seems to be a little bit shorter, a little bit stockier, and a little bit more powerful looking. Maybe the overall mold is a little nicer too, but again, it's hard to tell without them being side by side. Still both great looking kits, this one of course being that little bit smaller. Next up there it is spinning side by side with the older high-grade version, which is the 2019 version of Sandrock TV. The brand new version is nicer in every regard. In the hand you can feel it immediately, just the details are nicer, the plastic is nicer, the layout of parts so you don't get seam lines is nicer, and just the overall detail all over the place. It's just a nicer kit. Again, I was expecting it to be exactly the same, but they have upped the quality for this Endless Waltz line. And the reason I say line is because I do expect we will be seeing the Endless Waltz version of Heavy Arms, Death Side being Death Side Hell, Wing Zero with the wings, hopefully, and I'm not sure if they would actually redo or remake Altron because we have an Altron already, P Bandai, but it would be nice to see a brand new renewal in this nice, fancy new design. Anyway, now jumping on in to check out the details. First up is the head. The molded details are very nice, especially the way the panel lines are done in the muzzle. They're really crispy, easy to panel line, ink flows through them perfectly. We do have stickers on the eyes as well as the head camera. Everything else is quite nice. The head Vulcans are molded in purple. That could be color accurate actually. The only stickers are on those clavicle sections right there, which actually come off if you're sticking on the cloak. So if you're going to be cloaking it, that won't matter at all. Nice color separation in the chest with the red vents there. The yellow coming through in the shoulders looks great. The multiple kind of feathers in light gray and white looking great. The detail, or should I say, the top looks good, but the detail's kind of here where you can slide this open. Around the sides it looks good, not too hollow underneath, a little bit, but not too much. The arms looking very, very nice. We do have a bit of a seam there. Nubs do show up a little bit in the darker colors, which is usual, but besides that, the nubs and seam lines are super minimal. Around in the backpack, this looks really impressive and very similar to what I remember on the Master Grade. We do have these little hangy bits right here for hanging the showtails on. We have lots of verniers, and the twin tone color of the grey on the inside, the dark navy blue on the outside looks phenomenal. Down on the skirting armors, grey and purple separated out nicely. Again, a couple of nubs here and there. If you're a little bit more careful than I was, you'll easily clean those up. There is the back. As you can see, I didn't panel line the back, but nice paneling there, definitely. And down on the legs, then we've got those very nice, typical Gundam Wing style calves. We've got some grey color separation in the vents there, some great panel lining opportunity all over the place, and overall very, very nice. And even some nice molding on the bottom of the feet. Alright, so jumping on to the usual size comparison, there it is beside two average size Gundams. That's the high grade revived version of the ORC 782 on the left, and the Mark II on the right. So as you can see, it's a little bit shorter, as it should be, but not by a whole lot. Moving through a few more kits now, there it is beside the 2019 Sandrock TV, real grade Wing TV version, high grade Heavy Arms, high grade Shenlong, which was the best one of these kits until this one came along, high grade Death Scythe, high grade Aerial Rebuild, and finally high grade Gundam Barbatos. So jumping on into the accessories, and here is the high-grade Sandrock Custom EW with absolutely everything it comes with. Mainly what we get in here is the weapons, which is the heat showtails with 2 types of blades, and besides that then we've got all the parts for the cloak. All in all, a fairly decent set of accessories, but I've got one major problem. Where the hell is the beam Uzi? I mean, it's just a tiny bit of plastic, but they didn't include a beam Uzi? What's wrong with them? So first up in here, we've got the hands. We've got 8 in total. I'm just showing 4 of the hands. That's the right hand versions. That's the back of them. Again, the fingers and the hands themselves are meant to be white with this particular Gundam, but they are in grey here. Again, all you would have to do is just pop the hands off, give them all a spray in a nice white, and you'll be done. So not the worst, really. And it does keep them in the usual kind of high-grade style and color here, which means they can be usable across various different Gundam kits right out of box. Anyway, we do have widespread opens, holding hands with an extended angle, regular holding hands, as well as actual fists, which is always a nice touch. When it does come to attachment, it's the usual ball joint, just like so, with a nice satisfying click. And if you're curious as to whether they're compatible with the older kits, the answer is, oh, yeah, they are. Alright, so moving on to the weapons, and first off we've got the heat showtails. So mainly you've got the handle, which has this nice little foldy away, well, handle. That is basically for when you're popping them on the backpack. As for the blades, there are 2 of these included. So this nice silvered style, which is your standard blade. And then we've got the clear red heated style, which looks just like this right here. Very glassy, very candy, very transparent. To attach the blades, just attach them in from the top line, up the 2 attachment points, slide down and in from the top, and that is what they look like complete. So extremely, extremely nice. That's the standard blade. And this one right here is the red blade. So attachment, once again, exactly the same. Now, against the black background, this doesn't really pop as much as it does in reality, but these blades look incredibly, incredibly nice. When it comes to attaching these into the hands, it's the usual kind of sandwich hands. That means we've got one side just like so, it attaches on. Being the bread, the heat showtail, of course, being the ham, you throw the back of the hand on like so, like the other slice of bread, and it's attached. Again, very nice angled hands, or you've got standard angled hands in here too, depending on the angle you want it at. Now, one thing I notice here is really, really nicely designed. So there's the hand attached on, and this has a kind of swinging mechanism in order to, well, store it. It shouldn't be swinging while in the hand. But the actual thumb is at a bit of an angle, so if you do slide it up like so, it slides right up and across where it actually is meant to close, stopping it from closing. That is a very nice design. So once you have them attached in the hands, you just ball joint them into the wrist just like so, and these work out so well. Getting this into a pose is very fluid, very nice, and it's good and strong. These are super, super long, as you can see. In a pose, it looks incredible. These are over the top, and I've never really felt them work so well in a gunpla before. We've seen smaller versions of these when it comes to the 2019 high grade, and we've seen these pretty much exact ones in the master grade, and they didn't really perform as well in those particular kits. Here this works well, it looks so dynamic and awesome. Anyway, when these are not in use, you just pop them off, pop them out of the hand, you fold around the handle just like so, and then these attach into the backpack so nicely. They attach up top, then slide down, locking in position. Same on both sides, you can't mix up the wrong one on the wrong side because it won't fit, and then you slide up these little rail sections right here just to kind of armor around the handle sections. Overall, this looks great. Just speaking of great, I'm getting into a little bit of a pose now so you can just see how cool these look on the back. When it does come to posing, very nice. The actual dropping hips means you can really throw the legs around in air, so it does look very heavy, very dynamic, like it's got some weight. And as you can see, the heat show tails around back just look amazing, almost like a kind of pair of wings. Also, you can angle these with a little bit of up and down pivot, and you can swing them out and in as well to get them into just the angle you want them in. Very dynamic. The coolest I've seen so far with, well, a Sandrock ever. I'm very impressed. So next up we've got the awesome cloak. In order to attach this on, you do need to dismember Sandrock to some degree. So the arms come off, the head comes off, the backpack comes off, as well as those little detailed sections up on the shoulder. Then you need to attach the mantle on. Paying attention to the front versus back, it just drapes over the top like so, locks in with this neck section, which blends very nicely with the rubber stuff. This is plastic, the rest is rubber. Then pop the head on. At this point I realized I missed a step. You're meant to attach this little backpack extender unit before attaching on the mantle, but you can pop it in here quite easily with it on. This is used for attaching the backpack on while the cloak is attached. And at this point I got a little bit confused because it tells you to reattach the arms on, and at this point it seemed like there was no reason to take the arms off at all. You slide open these sections here to attach on the shoulders, and this confuses me even further because this is really hard to get attached with the arms attached. I actually, for both arms, had to remove the arms again in order to attach this down effectively onto the shoulder armors, just to make it actually click in all the way, to kind of get my thumb in underneath to make sure it was where I needed to go. So yeah, I recommend doing this with the arms off, not popping them on and then trying to add it on, because it's easier just to, well, do it with the arms off. All in all, it was a little bit on the awkward side when it came to the shoulders, but you know, that's it done. Let's check out what it can do with it on. And anyway, finally, there is it with the cloak on and the weapons attached. So because this is flexible, it does mean you can actually get the weapons into somewhat of a movement or posing kind of situation. It's not great, but it's not the worst either. It doesn't seem to actually permanently mark too much either when you move it around. The arms do have a decent amount of motion. There goes that side skirt again. Seriously, that side skirt. But yeah, overall, working out nicely. And it looks pretty cool. Time to get into a couple of poses. So jumping on into the articulation, and first off I will mention the wiggle test. There's a little bit of a bounce to it, but this is still rock solid plastic on plastic. There's just kind of a little bit of bounce in the hips. I think it's the new hip style, or maybe the dropping mechanism that's in there. But anyway, let's test out the usual pose. So when it does come to getting into the usual pose, this is absolutely incredible. Everything flows so nicely. You've got the dropping hip, which allows you to bring the leg down so you can kick it into a lunge really low. Even though there is no real bend to the toes, there is a little one, but it doesn't really do anything. It can still get low down into it. The side-to-side moving ankles are incredible. The design of the ankles, actually everything. Ab crunch, shoulders. The shoulders are large, but they can move up independently to the arms to keep them well out of the way. So you can bend the arms around where you need them. There's a nice crunch sideways to the ab crunch. It all just flows so nicely, and this is what you get in the end. I did lose a little piece, which is the side skirt from just over pushing everything. They are a little bit likely to fall off, but otherwise beautiful. Yeah, this ride here is what I got in the end, and that is very nice. As you can see, you can get it down nice and low into that lunge because of the nice dropping hips. The side-to-side movement on the feet is phenomenal, and just everything works out nicely. Great movement inside of the kind of armpits there to get the arm right up in the air, and the nice drop down into it. Just all works out perfectly. It looks great from pretty much every angle. Just look at that. Nice design to all of the joints. This one is particularly impressive, and I guess we might as well take a look through each of the moving parts. Anyway, going through the articulation bit by bit because this is quite impressive. So first up, when it comes to the head, we've got a mighty giggity goo. As you can see, this can really move forward and back on two different axes. There's the head all the way up, ball joint at the neck, a nice little hinge inside of the body below like we saw during the build. There it is all the way down, and we've got some nice side to side and a little bit of tilt too. Moving down to the shoulders, these are very nice. We've got this moving shoulder inside the body that moves like that, a nice ball joint which is on a nice gray peg, which gives it a mechanical kind of look as opposed to, your standard white plastic, which we would have seen with the older version. The shoulder can move separately to the arm, but the arm is still mounted into the shoulder. It moves up nicely like so, giving us the arm all the way up and, well, moving with the shoulder all the way down like that. I'll try and lock it in position. There you go. Down and up is beautiful. We've got this little flap here. Very, very nice. There it is. Up, down, up, all the way up. Full rotation at the upper arm. Nice 2-point bend right here. And standard ball joint wrist. When it comes to the ab crunch, it's very, very nice. There it is all the way to the back, all the way to the front. So we've got 2 points of articulation there. We've got nice side to side here. Front skirtings are normal ball joints. Side skirtings are ball joints too, but they have a little bit of a cutout on top, which means they are a little bit loose and can pop off at times. They can move back and forward, but could be a little bit more secure. We've got a nice premium butt flap, which moves up and out of the way a lot. When it comes to the leg, we do have a dropping mechanism in the hip right here. Drops down very, very nicely. This can be a little bit awkward, I'll mention that, well, in a second. But anyway, kick-wise, there it is all the way to the front and all the way to the back. If you do want more than that, you'll have to drop it down. But now you're kind of working with a funny new angle that moves the leg outwards. So there's the kick all the way out and all the way back. It is very, very nice, but it means you have to work with a kind of funny angle when you're working with this, but otherwise, quite nice. We've got full rotation at the upper leg, 2-point bend at the knee, which moves it very, very nicely. And to me, one of the most impressive aspects is the ankle. So it moves back and forward like so, moving this armor as well, which is on a ball joint, giving it a little bit of leeway itself. But the side to side in here is incredible. There's it all the way from one side, all the way to the other, meaning that, so even though you don't have too much of a bend at the toe right here, you can still get it into very, very nice poses, like we would have seen already. Again, in the final pose, or the usual pose, it looked a bit like that. Again, great articulation here, and one nice solid kit. So anyway, that right there is it for the review, and when it comes to the high-grade Gundam Sandrock Custom EW, this right here is gold tier, and a very high gold tier at that, which is not what I was expecting whatsoever. When it comes to the aesthetics, this got 4 out of 5. It is beautiful to look at. The details, the plastic, everything about it, the color separation is essentially perfect. Of course, there is the issue that the hands are not in white, but because they are separated from their backing, it would be really easy to just spray these down in white and you've got exactly what you need out of box. Details beautiful, silhouette beautiful, it's just a great looking kit. So when it does come to the articulation next, that's 4 out of 5 as well, so it is phenomenal. There isn't really any kind of letdown in it really anywhere I could kind of complain about. Everything has nice range of motion, it's been engineered very, very nicely, and even though it may not have some things like a toe bend or anything like that, it makes up for it with those nice dropping hips and good articulation in the leg. You will get pretty much any pose and every pose you want out of this. It is very, very good. When it comes to the accessories in here, this was just 3 out of 5, so this is bog standard I find. The accessories in here are fine. They all do what they need to do and they do it extremely, extremely well. All the hands is definitely a nice addition. The weapons are pretty cool, they mount very nicely on the back. As far as cloaks go, this might be one of the nicest cloaks out there. It can be a little bit awkward to get on, but once it's on, it's locked in there nicely and doesn't get too much in the way of poses. But in a way, if you're going to be popping this in its cloak, more than likely you're just going to be going for that standing there, blades out, assassin-esque look. Lastly then, when it comes to the build, this was a difficult one. In the end, it's quite solid. Sure, the side skirting pops off every now and then, but the actual build is very nicely done. There are some C-clips inside of the torso, which could get a little sketchy over time, hard to tell, but that's why I had to give it a half point, so that is 3.5 out of 5 for the build. The build is nice, puts together well. The approach to the engineering inside of the torso is very, very nice, and I do want to see the rest of the EW line getting this treatment. This right here is high-grade Wing Gundam redefined. I want to see the rest of the line because it will be a great line and a huge upgrade from what we would have seen from the TV versions. Highly recommended. I got mine through Hobby Link Japan. Link is down there in the description. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. It's the end of the video, so that means it's time to thank all of those awesome people that support me on the channel memberships as well as over on Patreon, including Stephen Collier, Izzy's Jim, Christopher Hamzy, Dismaz, Caleb Engelhardt, Joe, RG95061, Scotty Thomas, Van Fon, Stephen Collier again, and gunpla.deals.